programs. I think we'll end up with some new fans if people just stop by and give us a chance to talk about what we're doing.
So, what first like really like propelled you to start your projects?
A few years ago, I had built what I called my ADHD Inventors Club in my garage at my home in Oak Park, and I had 3D printers, and I had a small laser, and I had lots of tools, and it turned into a place where I was building great things. But nobody else was able to enjoy it. Nobody else was able to share it. And so I had a chance to lease a pretty large building on Stockton Boulevard. And I decided to move my Inventors Club there. And I would share my tools with my neighbors. I would share the limited skills that I had with my neighbors. And I would try to teach people how to use tools safely.
Yeah, but I'm curious, like, why people specifically in your community, like, you could have applied your skills in like a university, you could have gotten a degree in engineering, you could have, you know, had received better pay from that. Like, why choose community?
Pay, yeah, better pay. Any pay would be better. But I get a ton of reward out of running our nonprofit in Oak Park. Community was a huge part of my family, and growing up, I saw that neighbors helped each other. I saw my family take care of people that were less fortunate, and we just were a family who gave back to our neighbors. And I wanted to continue that on in Oak Park, and it was important since Oak Park has been an underserved neighborhood for quite a while, without access to a ton of food or educational opportunities or jobs or even access to tools. I thought Oak Park was the right place for us.
Yeah. And then how did you start your community projects, starting with the Fix It Cafe? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so we started, like I said, it was about 2 years ago when we actually started remodeling this building. The building that we leased is a 3,400 square foot facility, and it was in terrible condition when we got it. And we just spent about the first year building the building and making it habitable and safe for people to enjoy. And then we started building our programs there. One of the programs that we have is the Oak Park Fix It Cafe, and we do that every second Saturday. Our neighbors bring in anything that they want to try to bring in and let us try and fix. So we have knife sharpening, we have seams and sewing, we have I fix wood stuff, we do small engine repairs. Yeah, we do a ton of stuff on the Fix It Cafe, but it's about keeping stuff out of landfills and helping our neighbors avoid buying new stuff if they don't have to.
And then did your neighbors who seeked your services, did they already know you kind of in the community that you were offering those, or did you like market them and like go out and like put up flyers or whatnot?
So the overall project, I've been involved in nonprofits in Oak Park for quite a while. I have volunteered with Habitat for Humanity, which I think is an amazing organization, and YXP was another group that I volunteered with, and we did a services and food giveaway at the community center. But through those groups, I have learned and gotten to know a ton of my neighbors, and also our street, San Carlos Way, is one of those streets where everybody knows each other, and through the pandemic we built amazing relationships with neighbors, and all of us realized we could count on each other. And so our services, the Oak Park Fix It Cafe specifically, used to be at a church down the street from us. When I found out what they were doing there, I started courting them to come to community shop class and bring their work to our shop, where we could give them all the tools that they needed, we could give them the space that they needed, and it's just been a beautiful relationship. But they had quite a group of people that already attended the Oak Park Fix It Cafe, so we've just kind of expanded it and made it bigger. But that's just one of the programs that we've got at the shop.
And tell me how you really brought that space to life, like, because you showed me a picture of it, and it was like all retro, very 90s. Like, did you design that yourself? Did you have help? Like,
the overall design, and thank you for asking that. The overall design people have described as kind of a Nickelodeon set or Saved by the Bell type of an environment. It's very colorful, and we have a lot of pieces that scream for fairness in our community, that scream that there are underserved people in our community. And our shop happens to have been designed by a neurodivergent person. I'm severely impacted by ADHD, and I have a difficult time reading well. And so when I was putting the space together, I knew that I had to design it in a way that made ADHD people and neurodivergent people feel safe and comfortable. ASD, autism spectrum, and people with learning differences, they thrive in a different environment than a regular school environment. And so we created this space, and we broke it into small areas that were divided by colors and textures, and each individual area has a very specific purpose. It was kind of like a bento box was the idea for the design theme, that we could break things out and keep things super organized while still keeping it fun, and a place that people were inspired, that they could build anything, and that they were engaged enough to stay involved in our classes. But the design of the space was also a tribute to upcycling and reusing things that other people were throwing away. So if you look around the store, we've got like old payphones and newspaper machines, and we've got our snack bar is completely made out of a demolished Subway restaurant from way back in the day. So our theme, I would say, is kind of a dark 90s, but it's very colorful and fun inside. And the Nickelodeon set was probably the best compliment that I've gotten since I've been there on the design aspect of the shop. But it's truly a unique place. I've never seen or felt anywhere like it.
I love that it's a combination of both something that people who are neurodivergent, who have like, in a way, also disabilities, who could also enjoy this space, but then also people who are who don't have such conditions, but they can still look at it and be like, this is such a nice, open, welcoming space.
Yeah.
And as D'Angelo pointed, he really likes the space and how heartwarming it was.
Yeah, I feel sometimes when I walk in there, I'm surprised at it still. I've had quite a bit of help from neighbors who have helped me put things together and build some of it. But it's just amazing when I walk in there and I can still feel this excitement of being in that shop, and I get that feeling that I can do anything there. I could build anything. I've got all the tools I need, and I've got all the coaches I need and professionals that I need, that there's nothing I wouldn't be able to build.
Yeah. And then how regular do you get individuals coming in? Like, is it busy so far, or sometimes a little bit slow?
So our first year was just me kind of there working on this building, and my apprentice Michael and I, we did most of the build ourselves through the first year, and we started picking up and actually getting busier, especially over the last 6 months. One of the things that we were hired to do last year was build a tool confidence and safety class for AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is a federal organization that send young people out to do community service projects, and they had people that were getting hurt or injured in the field because they didn't know how to use tools. So one of our first jobs was to take 2 days worth of information and find a way that we could deliver it and have them retain it in about 4 hours. So we started working on this class, and getting through that much content meant that we had to do things differently. We used the environment, first of all. So people walk into shop class, they see the environment, and they know they're in a safe place. We drop their guard, we drop that wall that some people have when they're walking into an institution or a school environment or even a community center. So we make them feel safe. Our next thing is that we give them food and drink. It's something that we've done at the shop since my very beginning, and we will like to make sure that people have drinks and that they're never hungry. as we were building this class, we also knew that we had to get people hands-on as soon as possible. So we get them into the environment, they drop their guard, then we start delivering information in a way that's super hands-on so that nobody's left out of the learning experience. And then during the 4-hour class that we do for AmeriCorps, we tell stories, and it's a big part of our teaching method at Shop Class. We want people to feel while they're learning. We think that emotion is part of a huge part of the equation when it comes to learning and education. And it's something that's left out in the traditional classroom environment. So the emotional component of learning has become a huge part of all the classes that we build. We take the environment, we take storytelling, we take the emotion. We make sure that people feel safe both physically and emotionally when they're in the shop. We make sure their basic needs are met. And then we try to inspire them by bringing in great coaches that cheer for them. If you walk into community shop class, you'll probably hear clapping maybe 10 times a day for different things. And when we have classes going on, we encourage all of our classes to clap for anybody who walks in the door. So it'll just spontaneously bust out into applause at any time there. Sorry, I got off track. The question was about, are we busy or not? And yes, we are busy. That AmeriCorps program that we built became this foundation for our classes overall. And other groups and community-based organizations started hiring us to provide training that they weren't necessarily qualified to train at their facilities. They would hire us to do it. So we ended up picking up contracts with California Mobility Center, the AmeriCorps contract, which we're in our second year of right now, and I'm very proud of that, of the job that we've done. We do Waking the Village is another program that we run with the Creation District downtown. That program focuses a lot on unhoused young people or people that are fighting homelessness. And so those are kind of the classes that we do, but yes, the shop is very busy. There's a lot of people, and we have members that come in and work on their own stuff there. Right now we've got 3 groups that are actually building small businesses there. One is a portable event bar. There's another one that was a pop-up coffee stand that we did for Cafe Rue. People just seem to be starting these small businesses at Shop Class because we've got the tools, some of the expertise, and I'm a pretty good entrepreneur coach. So yes, we're busy.
Yeah. And then you mentioned how you would use emotions for people to better retain the information they get from your class. And I just want to highlight that because that is something that is definitely missing from like the learning space. Because I'm a senior in high school, and with like 4 years of experience of having to study and retain information, I actually learned that association is the best way for me to learn. Like if I, for example, there's like a really hard thing to remember, I would attribute with acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so acronyms help, and also like associating certain information with like really weird and odd things. Like the more weird, the more you're likely to remember it. So I love that you're actually including that in the process of learning, because I know sometimes it's frustrating for people, and especially people that you work with, which you mentioned, people who've also like learning disabilities.
Yes, absolutely.
It is like, it'll make that process so much more easier than, but also for people who don't have learning disabilities, who, you know, even struggle to find ways to study effectively.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we build every class that we've got there primarily from the perspective of a neurodivergent learner, simply because they're the ones that are most cheated out of the traditional learning environment. Traditional learners do wonderfully at Shop Class because we still offer this hands-on, this great experience, and a way for them to feel connected to what we're actually trying to teach them. We consider ourselves coaches. Everybody at the shop is a coach, not a teacher. I don't have a construction or teaching background. I worked for Apple for about 13 years in the corporate environment before I started Community Shop Class. And I learned how to be a good coach there, and I learned how to help people get information and keep it, and training people and training other managers how to be better coaches. But we've taken a lot of the things that I learned from my time at Apple and been able to work those into the training programs that we have at the shop. So we build these programs for these neurodivergent folks that also work for traditional learners, but neurodivergent people, they walk into the shop. I can't tell when people are neurodivergent, but there's some reactions to the shop when people first walk in and they see this huge sign that says ADHD Inventors Club. And they'll see this sign, and they'll see what we've created there. You know, a bunch of people with ADHD have built this learning center, and while the young people are going through our classes, we scream at them, "You can do anything," and we clap for them and we praise them. And to see young people that have maybe been told to sit down and shut up for too long because they're always fidgeting, to see them walk into a community shop class and look around and see that this place was built by people like them, and to see that that young people with ADHD go on to do huge things, even if it's not a college path for some of us. Even if our path is good, we're going to go out there and try to build a life with our hands. But inspiring young people who maybe don't get a chance to shine all the time was definitely a big part of community shop class.
Thank you so much for that sentiment. I think that as we progress as a society, there needs to be like more like spaces open to people who aren't traditional learners. And I feel like people, you know, who are neurodivergent, as we've been talking about, there are barriers when it comes to like learning, and it can impair, you know, their future and their ability to access certain things just because they need extra accommodations. And I don't think that should be a barrier to, you know, succeeding and pursuing their passions.
We have this theory at the shop that learning and the process of learning belongs to the learner, not the teacher. It's not the teacher's job to dictate how someone's going to learn. For us, it's a coach's job to see how we can get people to engage with our programs. We measure our success when we're delivering classes or we're delivering training. Our success is dictated by the engagement of our learners. We also see from our surveys, groups like AmeriCorps are telling us that we've done a great job with this program, so we get good feedback that way. But our feedback comes when we see people super engaged in our classes, or even if we lose someone. And we had a class that we did for a group of Girl Scouts. They were second and fourth graders. And I think we had probably 12 young learners building toolboxes, and it was an amazing event. But my co-host looked over and saw one of the young Girl Scouts was sitting off to the side. She looked nervous. She looked somewhat afraid. And my co-host for this event went over and individually pulled her away just a little bit to get her re-engaged, or at least back to the conversation. But I watched that interaction, and it was so wonderful to see that our coaches, that our staff was watching the individual learner to check for engagement, that we were seeing how they were picking up the information that we were delivering, instead of just forcing information down someone's throat the way we think we wanted to give it.
Yeah, and I wish that schools had more of that, like support staff, but obviously, you know, due to just like teacher shortages and whatnot, that's extremely difficult. And classes being like too big, like the teacher to student ratio, is not serving our youth. Yeah.
Education. I went to high school at a well-funded high school, you know, in Lake Tahoe. And my freshman year, there was a counselor that realized that I didn't read well. She wanted me to graduate. And so she ended up putting me into every elective class that she could, that she thought I could succeed in. But I ended up, it took me 5 years to get out of high school. But the education that I got in high school was woodshop, I took woodshop 2, I took ROP construction, I took a class in ROP restaurant management, I took a regional occupation program ROP class in stagecraft, architectural drawing, mechanical drawing, psychology. I took speech and debate, I took public speaking, and creative writing. My high school experience over those 5 years was much different than anyone's, probably. And I probably carried more of my high school experience into my actual life than most people would. I didn't end up after high school prepared for college because it wasn't in my plans. But the education I got was phenomenal because there was one counselor that decided I was worth changing the education process for. That instead of forcing me to drop out, which was my other option, she changed the entire system just so I could graduate. Education. I think we're doing a terrible job. I also think that the way that we have treated our young people through the pandemic when it comes to education was absolutely horrendous. I don't know what the answer was, but I know that we've got a lot of people that lost years of important education. I see them at the shop. I see people who graduated during the pandemic and it's different. They didn't have the same learning opportunities. They didn't have the same direct, maybe involvement in preparing for college or what their next step was going to be because of the pandemic. Yeah, we failed a ton of young people when it comes to education. And I think that neighborhood learning can be brought to the people who truly need it. We built community shop class in Oak Park because it's my home, it's where I live, and I have for the last 8 or so years. It's a place that needs us. There's not a huge access to tools or education opportunities or jobs or food. But we think that neighborhoods like ours can really use a neighborhood learning center that focuses on helping people get ready for the workplace, that helps people increase confidence that they can build the things that they want to build. And using our method of teaching, I think that we're reaching a ton of young people that may have been lost during the pandemic.
Yeah, and you briefly mentioned kind of like your other program that advocates for kids who are like at risk of homelessness or are homeless. Can you touch upon that and how you've worked with kids who are homeless because they're trans or they're part of the LGBTQ community and it's not exactly accepted by their family and hence they're kicked out of their homes?
So I first started community shop class and people told me that nonprofits shouldn't have an opinion on things, that you remain neutral. Community shop class has a lot of opinions on things that are going on right now. We also have decided that we were going to be an active ally to organizations like Black Lives Matter Sacramento, Waking the Village, the groups that we support. But yes, young people experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity has been a big thing for us. The group that comes through Waking the Village, there are a percentage of them who are trans, queer folks that came home and told their parents who they were, and they were kicked out of their homes. I've heard the story over and over and over again from these amazing trans humans that they are simply unaccepted at home, outside. One of the things that we have tried to do is create an absolute safe place for everybody, but we actively seek opportunities to help in the queer community. We think right now it's more important than ever, and the work that we do in the queer community, we see it making a difference. Our program with Waking the Village is probably one of my absolute favorite programs that we have at the shop, and we get to take young people through this e-bike building class. These these young people that are struggling either with housing or with abuse. Transportation is a huge thing. So we get to take these young people through this 6-week class where they get to learn how to build an e-bike. They learn all about charging, and they learn about the power systems, and they learn a little bit about soldering and assembly. We take them through this program over the course of 6 weeks, and at the end of the 6 weeks, we get to present this e-bike to them. And now they've got a way to get around, and they've got some assembly skills under their belt that they can take out into the workplace. But that program is absolutely one of the most critical programs we have, and it's right now some of our funders are making decisions about whether they're going to continue funding that program for us, and I keep my fingers crossed every day that they let us keep helping in that community with the e-bike program and keep doing our work well.
And besides that, you also have another program that I don't think we touched fully upon, which is the Affordable Tiny Homes one.
Housing.
Yes.
Housing. Stockton Boulevard. Our workshop, our neighborhood learning center is on Stockton Boulevard, the 3800 block, which is 14th on one side and Luigi's Pizza on the other side, the oldest pizza place in Sac. We see every problem that Sacramento faces in that one block. We've had overdose deaths on our block. We watch the housing crisis on our block because there are people who live at our bus stop. We have challenges with some crime that comes primarily because of the lack of affordable housing, is what we think. We have people who don't have food or drink or fresh water. Community shot class. I decided when I started it that I was going to actually address some problems. Education was one of them because I think we suck at educating neurodivergent folks, but also housing and manufacturing and jobs in Oak Park. So 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, I had this dream that we could manufacture tiny homes in Oak Park. And I started building a program that was a month-long kind of journey into building and trades work. We started out the first week with framing and carpentry. We did flooring and a roof. The second week we did electricity, but we focused on installing a solar panel on top of the tiny home, and we built an electric vehicle charging station so that my students could learn how to do some of that stuff. And we did 3D printing and laser work during that week. And then we moved on to Water Week, which was plumbing, and we do irrigation, and we do water reclamation, and we see how urban ag can work with a tiny home. So a tiny home with a tiny garden and an irrigation system. And then the fourth week we do finishing work. We do cabinetry a little bit. I'm not the best at it, but we do some cabinetry work and some finishing work, and people learn about pride and workmanship. And so this class, this tiny house building class, we're going through it right now, and it's the most beautiful class that I've ever worked on. It's our flagship program, and probably the most important work that I'll do in my life, I think, is the tiny home program. As we're going through and we're teaching young people actual life skills, we teach them how to use almost 50 tools during the process. We get them exposed to as many different things as we possibly can when it comes to either building, trades work, technology, creativity, and art. We celebrate all those things during this month of learning. But we also talk about volunteerism. We focus a lot on sustainability. We talk about communities mending themselves from the inside. We talk about fairness. We talk about job appropriateness. One of the things that we've seen on construction sites is that they're not always inclusive to the queer community, to women, to neurodivergent folks. So as part of our program, we're trying to make a change in that by welcoming new faces into trades work. The Tiny Home program My first group is the most beautiful and amazing crew I've ever had. And they're on week 2 right now, and they're learning a ton. And we think that those people that are going through the program, they're not going to end up electricians from our program. They're not going to end up being a skilled carpenter from our program, but they're going to experience carpentry. They're going to experience tools. They're going to experience electricity. They're going to experience solar. And hopefully, at the end of it, they have enough information to make a decision about what their life might look like if they were going to work with their hands. The program is about getting people work site, job site ready. It's about getting people the information that they need to do a good job at work, and what to expect when they end up entering the job market. But yeah, the tiny home program. So we do this month-long program, and that's the core of what we're doing. But in the process, we're building a tiny home. Our partners at Tainer Tiny Homes have engineered this amazing modular system that is fire retardant, that is easy to build, that can be built on trailers, that can be built on foundations, and you can change doorways and windows to accommodate for accessibility issues. You can add wider doorways, and the system is just brilliant, and it's allowed us now to do this program, but also to manufacture the greatest little tiny homes that I've ever seen. The system is brilliant. James at Tainer has been an amazing supporter of my programs and community shop classes programs. And Milwaukee Tools has helped us a ton in the process of getting our program started. But the tiny house program, I think, I truly believe it's the most important work of my life.
And this goes back to like even a bigger question about like climate change and sustainability, and how like unfortunately our cities are failing, or specifically in Sacramento, we're lacking in that because roads are much bigger than our sidewalks. Houses are in their certain spaces, or like they're in suburbs. It's not like built in alignment with kind of like our nature and a way that we can sustainably house people as our population grows.
Housing. Sorry. Last week, so there's a man that lives at the bus stop directly in front of Community Shop Class. His name is Sam. He was a piano player at his church for 20 years. He's an amazing musician. He fell on hard times and got stuck there. And he has spent the last 2 years in and out of the bus stop in front of my building, where I try to care for him in the best way I can. I give him food and drink. I let him use my restroom, and I let him charge his phones there. He can connect to Wi-Fi. Last week, I saw that there was this group of police at the bus stop surrounding Sam. And I went out to see what was going on with him, to let them know that he wasn't harassing anybody, that he was just there. The police told me, "Oh, we've got a program for him." And I was ecstatic. I found out, I believed that he was going to get help with his feet and health care, and I believed that someone was going to help do paperwork and help him get the kind of resources he needs. So that night, I took him to his program. That I thought I was taking him to a program. But really all the police had done is told me to take him to Miller Park, where I was going to put him into a tent with a bunch of other people in tents at the end of Broadway, down by the river. I drove into to the tent area that they were going to put Sam in, and it was absolutely heartbreaking what was going on, especially when I'm building tiny homes in my backyard. The city of Sacramento's solution for Sam was to put him in a tent at the river. That was the resources that they offered for a man that played piano in his church for 20 years. Their solution was to put him in a tent by the river with a ton of people who their belongings didn't seem safe. They didn't feel safe there. They weren't comfortable, and they weren't cared for. And there was no resources offered to them. So we are not only not doing what is sustainably right in the methods that we're trying to fix the housing crisis with. We're not doing what's right for people. We're not doing what's right for the businesses or for the environment or for Sacramento. Sustainably, we work hard to make sure that our products, our classes, and our building recycles as much as possible. We have worked closely with SMUD to work on our energy usage, and they've been a partner in helping us with some of our events. We also have, just to plug my community garden. So our building is our workshop, and then out back we've got an outdoor learning center where people can come and learn about bees and honey production, because we have bee boxes and we make our own honey there. We've got a community garden where people can watch things grow and learn more about growing and feeding their neighbors, growing food and giving it away. And just recently we finished up talks to become the new home for the Oak Park Eggery, which means we're going to bring affordable eggs into our community, which is imperative for us. Sustainably, the tiny homes that we build are a steel product, use mostly metal. But we've done some amazing work with new materials like mycelium, which is a fungus growth, using it as an insulation material, and making sure that we're doing the absolute best job on these homes that we can, not only for the people that live in them, but also for the environment where they will live. We've seen, even on our street in San Carlos, we saw that neighbors who don't look the same, who don't have the same histories, who aren't related by anything other than their proximity to the others, we can get along and we can make life easier for everybody. I was the neighbor who had all the tools that you could borrow. We also grew tomatoes and cucumbers at my place. Our neighbors grew zucchini and some other things. So we all knew that we were getting this big assortment of vegetables and we could just swap them out. I did a little bit too well on cucumbers last year, and my neighbors were like, stop bringing cucumbers, we don't need it anymore. But cooperation between neighbors is something that is absolutely missing right now, but I think it's something that can come back. Right now, neighbors almost feel to be living in conflict more than cooperation. And I don't know what the answer is to that, except for the more that we get to know our neighbors, the more we go over and shake hands, the more that we wave to them when they're leaving, and just begin these conversations with these people that are around us. At some point, they might start to feel like a team that are working together to solve problems, instead of a bunch of individuals who are just focused on their own specific needs without regard to what their neighbors are feeling. Our hope is that someday our tiny homes will end up in these communities that would have, this big garage area like community shop class where their tools were, and there was leather working and metal working and woodworking, and there could be a diner type environment. Let me just say, we've got a friend, or we've got friends at a place called the Meristem Academy in Fair Oaks, and what they are doing there on this huge campus. I think it's 16 acres, but they've got a full circle of recycling through a cafe. They do gardening. They have ponds. They have a theater where people can do performing arts and improv. They have leatherworking, metalworking, clay, ceramics. They just have everything in this environment where they teach autistic folks life skills. And it's a beautiful program, but Community Shop Class has been working with them and learning more about how they are teaching in their space to try to bring some of that to our space. But neighbors, being a good neighbor is simply at the core of what Community Shop Class is about, is sharing. We share food, we share tools. We are trying to encourage our neighbors to be better neighbors to their neighbors.
Yeah, and I know you've already touched upon your hometown in Stockton couple times, but Is there anything else that you want to speak about in regards to Stockton and kind of like the issues that you see and the disparities, like, and then what else you hope to see improve?
Yeah, thank you. Stockton Boulevard. Stockton Boulevard is a very, very different place block to block. There are areas of Stockton Boulevard that are being redeveloped right now, both to the north and south of the 3800 block where we are. So like I said earlier, Stockton Boulevard sees every ill of society directly in front of our building. We see the kind of issues there that are that most people would turn away from. There's times where we have to go out front because someone is pinning someone else against the bus stop in an aggressive manner, or people don't have a bathroom, so they're using the front of our store for that. Stockton Boulevard. North of us is the UC Davis Health redevelopment area. Down south, there's some redevelopment going on. But we're in the middle of these two redevelopments. And what's happened because of that is that we're just being left kind of to wither away. Our block has lost so many businesses. Mo Betta closed her restaurant down because her owners wouldn't fix her electrical. We're losing another business right now. We've lost a salon, and we've got these empty properties littering our entire block, which are terribly unsafe. Abandoned buildings are a huge attractor of crime, and not having appropriate lighting on our block is hurting us. Those vacant buildings, though, are probably what's giving us the most trouble. And neglectful landlords. Our landlord hasn't done much to his building, but he's been better than some of the others. There's a few buildings on our street that have been dilapidated, broken windows for the last 10 years. And the city really hasn't done much to try to fix those. We complain to the city. We talk to people who will listen, telling them that we've got these problems on Stockton Boulevard that we need their help in solving. But one of the things that we've seen is the city doesn't mind if we try to solve their problems for them. And it's a hard job to work on problems like housing and food and neighborhood and fairness and justice at Community Shop Class when we don't have a lot of backup from the city, county, or the people that are involved in making the decisions around Sacramento. I feel like our block is just on a limited time frame. I don't think we probably are going to have a lot of years left in that building because, like the blocks before us and after us, they get torn down to make room for pretty buildings that make Oak Park more comfortable for the new people in Oak Park, but not for the people who have called it home for years. Stockton Boulevard is a tough place to stay open. It's not always an easy place to attract people to. Families don't always want to come to our block for a special event because they see dilapidated buildings on our block and an extreme amount of people struggling with housing and drugs, and those things are all happening in front of our stores. So it's not always where a family might feel totally safe to come through that to get to our place where they can feel safe. My hope is that the city steps in and will help us mend and fix that block without destroying it and tearing it down in the process.
As we wrap up, what are some final thoughts that you have?
This has been fun. Thank you for spending this time with me and letting me talk about Community Shop Class. Projects like mine, project like ours, Community Shop Class, we've self-funded from the beginning, and it's been tough to stay open. The grant process for nonprofits is a difficult process to navigate for most people. I simply have some cognitive or executive function issues that make forms and things like that very difficult for me. But the grant process seems like it's mostly for people who get grants. People who are out doing the work in the communities aren't always the ones that get the funding to keep doing good work in our community. So I hope that the city will actually start looking more at the work that we are doing and less at a grant application to decide if we're worthwhile to Oak Park, which we already see the impact of what we are doing. It's I started this because I truly thought that I could change the world just a little bit, you know. And we watch our programs working, and we know we're changing the world. We just need more people's help. We need better donors to stand up behind us and see the work that we're doing. We need people to sign up as members. We need the city to step in and start paying us to do the work that we are already doing for free for them. We need more businesses to step up, like Milwaukee Tools has for us, and Toya Grid, and AmeriCorps, and some of these others. We need more businesses to step in and sponsor our neighborhood. Sponsor us to keep doing good work in our neighborhood. But my final thought is I hope that you'll go check out our Instagram at Community Shop Class. It talks a lot about our programs and has pictures of what we've been doing. Also, our website is communityshopclass.org. Go there. There's opportunities to donate, to volunteer, or just to find out about what classes and programs we've got coming up. And talk about us online. Go and check out what we're doing. Come by the shop and see us. Just come by and maybe have a free soda with me one day and talk about our programs. But we love visitors being around the shop. But this is the way that we're going to keep doing the work that we've been doing for the last 2 years, is with the help of the neighbors who want this work done. They need to stand behind us and actually show material support for the people who are doing the work.